Okay, so first thing you always want to do whenever you're doing a case swap is prepare the new case. So basically you just want to take everything off of it you can. Start by taking the doors off and opening it all up. This is the Lian lancool 2 mesh RGB case. So I take off both the doors, took off the little dust filter on the top, popping the front little cover off, just opening everything up I can, taking the back plates off where all the cables are, where you got to do all the cable management, the fun stuff. So all that comes attached to the case here is you got some RGB, you got your fans, and you got your SATA power right there, and then you also got the USB. So it's not a whole lot to it. So don't let all the cables overwhelm you. It's not that bad. It always looks like a lot more than it really is. So right here, all I'm doing is I'm just unplugging all of the RGB that the fans are connected to in the case. You know, the case comes with its own little controller built into the top there, the button. So I'm just disconnecting those so that I can take the fans off and remove the radiator bracket and be able to have it nice and clean. And here I'm taking out the 2 screws that hold in the radiator bracket. They're right up top there, one on each side. Just tilts forward, lifts right out, and you just kind of fish the wires out of there. Piece of cake. Now all your fans are separated from the case. You want to take all your fans off the radiator bracket so that you can put your radiator in later. Now all I'm doing is just putting the wires back up so that's out of the way. And I'm going to remove that last cover over there so that I can easily get to the back of the CPU if I want to. And also for ease while installing the radiator and stuff, the AIO, if that's how I'm going to do it. It's just nice to be able to have nice access there while you're building. Open everything up. And right here, I'm going to flip this bracket around because I got a big boy graphics card. So got to flip this little wire management port over so that the graphics card can fit properly. Just 2 screws. Just moving the cables out the way. Not much left to do to prepare the case. Put those 2 screws back in. Then we're going to remove just 2 more covers, or 3 more covers, just so that we have all the room we can to be able to maneuver wires around and be able to get to what we need to get to. You know, we want to make it as easy as possible for ourselves while we're building. You don't want things in your way. And right here, I'm just moving around some of the standoffs so that I don't have to later. And it is marked on the case where you need to put the standoffs for each size board you get for a ATX, micro ATX, all of them. So it's very convenient. Comes with the little tool that you need to be able to take those in and out. Now I'm just removing the bottom 2 covers there because I plan on installing fans there later. All right, now on to the Omen teardown. First thing to do is to take out the bottom screw so we can remove the back panel. So as you see, it's just a little tiny screw at the very bottom there, right next to the PSU. It's right below those wires. It's a little Phillips screw. So once you take that out, you can just pop the back panel off. Some people have said it gave them a little bit of trouble. I was able to just pop mine right off. It wasn't too bad. Then lay your computer back down, start pulling out the plugs. If this is your first time doing it, which I'm sure it is while you're watching this, take some pictures so that you remember where everything is. You know, you don't want to forget, but it's pretty easy. Look at the plugs. They're only going to fit one place. You know, it's not, maybe I'm just familiar with it. I don't find it difficult. Here I'm removing the fan plugs and the AIO pump plug. Just getting everything unplugged out of my way. My big fat fingers had a hard time getting in there. And then I'm removing the radiator bracket here. It's just 2 screws at the top. And you'll see once I get this screw out, you just kind of push down on the radiator. And then you can tilt it forward. The whole thing will slide out. Bracket, radiator, fan, and all. So you can slide that out. That's also, if you just want to replace that fan, that's how you can easily get to all that. Yeah, I can fit a full-size screwdriver right in there, no problem. I'm just taking the fan off here just to show you guys in case somebody's just interested in changing this out. I'm going to take the AIO out. Get that out the way. See, I'm going in a cross pattern just so it doesn't create too much pressure on there. I don't know how well they put this on there. I don't want to create any more pressure than I have to on the CPU right there and on the motherboard. So just take it off nice and even. All right, now we're going to move on. Next, we're going to, right here I was just showing how well the HP actually did a decent job with thermal paste. But anyway, now taking off the graphics card bracket. It's 2 screws right there at the side. And then there's 4 little slots in the back there that you have to pull up on that bracket and kind of apply some pressure outward at the same time for it to pop out. And I'm just removing my hard drive out of the way so I can easily see and get to everything. And I'm still unplugging some wires. Right here I'm unplugging the USB plug. They really stuck these plugs in there. Yeah, I get a little sidetracked while I'm working on stuff, but you can unplug everything at one time or, you know, plug a little bit at a time like I did. It doesn't really matter. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. So got that out. I slowed the video down here a little bit so that you can see I have these little spacers I got that came along with my little toolkit I ordered. And I kind of put them in there to apply a little pressure outward on the bracket as I wiggled up and down and pulled up on it. As you see, I just pushed it down so I could push those little spacers in a little bit further. And then I'm going to just kind of pull it up a little bit, get those nice and snug in there. So I tried taking this out, just pulling up, and it would not come out. So had to improvise a little bit. Then I just gave one good yank. Popped myself in the face with that, but it came out. Now I'm taking out 2 screws there, holding in the graphics card in the back. Make sure that you push the black tab at the top of the graphics card all the way back to push the graphics card all the way out of its little slot there. Don't try pulling it out before you push that all the way back. Now I'm just unplugging more wires, getting more wires out of the way. That main plug is really, really tight in there. That took a little second to wiggle out. HP really likes to make things difficult for you. Just take your time, you know, don't apply too much pressure. You don't want to break anything. So there it goes, just popped right out eventually. Now I'm just disconnecting everything at the bottom there. Everything has to be disconnected. You don't want any wires connected. Everything has to come undone. So just take pictures if you're worried you'll forget where something goes. And just remember, look at the plug and look at the motherboard. It's only going to plug in one spot. You're not going to screw that up. It's pretty easy to figure out where it goes. So here I'm just moving all the wires out of the way, making sure they're off the motherboard so that they're not touching nothing. Now I got the camera at a bad angle and apologize about that, but I'm just unplugging everything from that little controller down there at the bottom right corner. Still just getting every single wire disconnected from the motherboard. Don't want anything over there. All right, now that you've done that, you want to just fish all those wires out the back. Just nice and easy, slide them through. That way you can get them all out of your way. You don't want to damage the motherboard when you take it out, so you want to make it nice and open for yourself. So it's much easier to get the power supply out first and just get all those wires out of your way. Just take your time. Right here, I'm quickly just taking those 2 screws out from the controller, because that's all that's left of that. Everything's disconnected from it already. And your Wi-Fi cables are going to be connected to your case, but you can take the front of the case off to be able to disconnect the Wi-Fi cables and transfer it to your new case if you want. You don't have to leave those behind. Now I'm just taking the 4 screws out of the power supply unit so I can pull that out. Now make sure you got a hand on it so it doesn't just fall, just in case. But there is a little metal bracket, little tab on the back. You see, I grabbed it with my finger there on the back side. And you just kind of pull back and it'll slide out. You got to give just a little bit of pressure. There it goes. Now the power supply is out the way. Now I'm just loosening all the screws on the motherboard. I'm not taking it out just yet. Going to get that fan out of my way first, but I'm just loosening them up. I like to jump around a little bit sometimes when I'm working on stuff. I don't know why. There you go. Take all the screws out. And just when you lift on the motherboard, lift nice and easy. Make sure there's nothing feels like it's holding it down. You don't want to pull, apply any pressure on there. See, it should come out nice and easy. And now we got to get the AIO bracket off the back of the motherboard here. As you see, I'm using these spacers again. They look like little guitar picks. And you just kind of put them around the sides there to create a little pressure. You don't want to create too much. The bracket they put on some kind of like industrial strength glue, double-sided foam tape stuff. So it's quite difficult, but just take your time. As you see here, I just worked with it. Had a little plastic tool that I could take and just kind of slide through that little foam stuff and slowly work it away, loosen it up. Just take your time with it. There's the new bracket for the AIO. Slide that right in. And you're going to pop your spacers down for your AIO. Your AIO might be different than mine, so here I'm just putting in the other standoffs, making sure that I have them all nice and tight and where they're supposed to be. So you just look. Yeah, I'm even just double checking, looking where all the screws are. Slowly, easily set it down. And that's when I notice, wait a minute. I got to take one of those standoffs out. So just take your time, look at what you're doing. So then just put your screws back in once you got your motherboard set in there. Oh, and make sure you clean off your CPU. I forgot to film this part, but you got to clean off your CPU. Clean that off with a little alcohol wipe that you get at the doctor, like when you're getting a shot, something like that. You can get some stuff off Amazon if you want. Just make sure it's some kind of microfiber. Don't use alcohol in a tissue paper to where tissue gets all in there. Be real gentle with it. You don't want to apply pressure and bend anything. Just real easy. That stuff will clean up real nice. Unless it's caked on there, then it might be a little bit more difficult. Just take your time. But yeah, make sure you clean off the CPU. You don't want any leftover thermal paste on there. Here I'm putting the PSU back in there. Just putting those 4 screws in the back, same as the other one. I'm not worried about the wires, just letting them hang down out of the way. And then I'm going to first feed the longest wire through the top, because that's the only one that's going to reach up there. That way you know where that one goes. Very easy to figure out. This is how you can do it without taking pictures, but you know, for me it's not too bad. Then the main plug, it's going to be the biggest one. And then your GPU plug, it's going to be the shortest one, and just feed it through the bottom. Tried to go through the side there, but it was too short. But this case has a nice little opening there, so I was able to just feed it up through that. That's a piece of cake. Now I'm taking the wires off the that are connected to the case, and I'm pulling out that's the USB for the front. I'm plugging that in. Now I'm just kind of moving the wires out of the way, making them, you know, trying to make it nice and clean for myself later. All I'm doing here is just organizing some things for myself. Get in all the wires, make sure everything's good, everything's nice and pretty. Now I'll move on to the radiator. Got to get it set up. So put the bracket on that we took out before. Set it on top. Make sure you orient your radiator, whichever radiator you get. You know, orient it right. Set your bracket on there. Got to put your fans on. Make sure everything lines up. Make sure you put your fans on the right way. Don't have them messed up like I do right here. I figure it out. Flip it over. And make sure you know which way you want your airflow to go. You know, the side of the fan that has the guard on it typically is the side it's pushing the air out that way. So here I'm going to be using my radiator as an intake, putting it in the front. Really help cool that CPU down. So I'm just getting all those lined up. I'm not tightening that down super tight, just a barely little finger tight. You don't want to run those screws into the radiator or nothing. None of this stuff needs to be tightened down like wrist tight. All of it's just finger tight. They don't over tighten everything. And now I had put the tubes through the front there, and now I'm just running the wires through the side so that everything can be plugged up and be nice and clean. Well, as clean as I get things. It's not perfect, but it's good enough for me. So just run all your wires through, you know, get everything nice and set up before you screw things in and put in your brackets, because once you have everything in there, there's not as much space. So you want to get your wires ran before then. Set my radiator in, put the 2 screws up top. Now with most cases, they're not super thick metal or anything, so if you screw in one side too tight, too fast, and fasten it all the way down, it'll be a little crooked. So always halfway tighten a screw, put in the other screw, halfway tighten it, go back and forth so that things are nice and even on there. You don't want to start pulling things one way too tight, start warping all of that, have it look weird. Now I'm just going to plug the RGB back up so that the button on top of the case can control it. So I want everything to make sure that it's running back through the case, because, you know, these motherboards don't have any of that. And if you have the same case as me, it'll be the same thing. If you have a different case than me, then you might not even have the RGB up there. It just depends. Now I'm just putting all the wires back into the case, getting them out of my way so that I can lay it back down and start working on other things. And I don't want all that mess just sticking out. So I just kind of shove it into the open base for now so that I can finish up other stuff before I do all the cable management. So I like this case because it comes with the little Velcro straps on the back so that it's pretty easy to work with the cables and keep them out of the way and make sure they're hidden behind those little covers and stuff that come with it. It's pretty nice. Stays nice and clean. So here's the thermal paste application where everyone's going to leave bad comments and judge me. But I'm using a spreader to show people who are new to this, because I imagine people who are looking for a video on how to swap their case probably need help doing this. So use a spreader, make it easy on yourself. Just put a little bit at a time. You want a very thin application. You know, once my big arm gets out the way, you'll be able to see it's not thick. I'm not putting a lot down. It's not a thick paste. You don't want it to squirt out the sides when you put down your AIO plate there. And that's a pretty heavy plate and everything. You're gonna be tightening it down. You don't want to have that stuff squish out. You want it to be a very thin layer. So just spread it out with the spreader, cover the entire CPU, have it nice and thin so that it's not going to be pushed out when you put this down and tighten it down. Get your screws on there, go in a little crisscross pattern. You want to apply even pressure. And as you see, I just tightened it down in a little diagonal manner. Not too tight, like I said, just everything's a nice finger tight. Don't try and, Hercules that thing down. You'll break your motherboard, or you potentially could. But just be easy with it. Here, I'm just putting the fan in. I decided to put that cover back on. I just thought it'd be nicer. I didn't want it open right there. And I didn't need wires running up through it, since there was open ports in the back. Right now I'm about to put the graphics card in, and I realize that this wire is going to be in my way. So I just unplug it and move it up for now. Figure out how I'm going to run it after I had the graphics card in. I want to make sure that you push it all the way in until that tab on top clicks. If you look real close, you can see it pop out once I had it all the way in. Put the 2 screws in over there to hold it. Now I'm going to pull the USB wire here back out and reroute it up through the top by the main plug so that it can fit nice and easy and not be touching the graphics card. Just takes me a second to figure out that it's not going to work out that way until I pull it out and put it through the top. There we go, buddy. He's a little slow sometimes. All right. Make sure you plug up your AIO pump back into the correct plug. That's very important. You don't want that not plugged in. Make sure you have that plugged in. Make sure you have your fans plugged in. Plug in all your wires back in to your motherboard. Now just look at your pictures if you need help remembering where they are. Very important, do not forget your AIO pump. Make sure that's plugged in. Alright, so graphics card in, everything in there. It's just about done. Just kind of cleaning up some wires here in the back, make sure things are all in there, everything's looking good. Plugging up the GPU, and that's going to be it. That's how you swap the case, guys. Very easy. If this helped you out, leave me a like, subscribe, help your buddy. There you go, put your doors back on and you're done. Got a brand new case. And then you just got to pop the front back on, pop the doors back on, you're finished. Very easy. So don't let it intimidate you. You see the video, walked you through the whole thing, very, very easy. I tried to cut it down and make it fast for you. Hope it helped. So the build turned out pretty good, I think. Now I'm just going to put the doors back on and it's finished. And so here it is, plugged up, working. Just finished the video. Piece of cake. So if this helped you guys out, give me a like, subscribe. There you go. Piece of cake, guys. You can do it.